Fearless Freedom family. We are at it again this week, and I'm telling you, we got the goods this week for sure. Today we have Dr. Lou, Dr. Christopher Lou. He is going to talk to you all about what he's up to, and he's going to share some amazing pearls with you today. Dr. Lou?
Thanks, Charmaine. I'm glad to be happy on this podcast. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. I'm happy to have you. Tell the audience about what you're up to and who you are and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm a physician, entrepreneur, investor, and soon to be TEDx speaker. And I'll tell you all about my story and bio later on in the show. But currently, I'm working on launching my online digital product, Financial Freedom for Physicians through Passive Income Streams. That's my current project right now. And I also have several upcoming online seminars later on in the year that I'm planning, focusing on becoming a TEDx speaker. One is also focused on physicians interested in financial freedom through Airbnbs. And then I have a more of a general watered down course on how to transition into physician entrepreneurship and become a physician investor. So, and then I have my upcoming TEDx talk in October 2020 is going to profile my unique journey and other 3 key lessons towards thriving in this age of disruption. As we all know, times are quite interesting these days. So.
Indeed, yes, we are in very interesting times. And so I know you mentioned several things there, and I can probe and figure out how somehow, some way you came to start creating these items because there was some fear you're facing. So can you share with us, you pick one, and then you share with us how fear helped you, or you facing your fear allowed for you to get going on the pathway?
Yeah, sure. So my biggest fears were, one, I really feared what just not being loved and not being fitting in, and so for a long time that manifested this deep-seated pain, and I always felt like I had to always strive and express myself in constant achievement, and so that was one fear. The other fear is just facing the fact that it took me 8 years to realize that I was living a lie, and I was living someone else's dream for me instead of following my own dreams. So it took me 8 years to fully realize that and to actually take the plunge. And I actually, most of the time in my business, people talk to me and they ask me, the most common question I get is, how did you do it? Or how do you just take a plunge? How do you leave a high-paying orthopedic position and just go for it? And it's almost like bungee cord jumping or skydiving, or just where you're the edge on your edge of a cliff and you're gonna go down that black diamond slope, and you just have to take it all in and you experience it, and you just have to take that first step, and you have to know that everything is working for your good and everything will work out in the end. So that's how I describe it. But I'll go back a little into my story. Growing up, I was always the outsider. I never really fit in. So, and really at heart, I was always an entrepreneur. But my upbringing and social conditioning was telling me, oh, in order to be successful in today's world, you have to become a doctor or a lawyer or some highly paid professional. But really, I really like the academic part. I could achieve and I could do all of that, but I just really didn't fit into somebody's hierarchy and somebody's arbitrary rules. So I really didn't fit into corporate culture or bureaucracy. So at the heart of it, it was really just freedom. I just have the ability to create my own destiny and future and not be dependent upon anyone or anything, or just something external, and be able to thrive during up conditions as well as down conditions. For example, right now we're experiencing this COVID-19 crisis, and everybody's fighting over toilet paper. So really that was the heart of just freedom. I was part of the joint MD Ph.D. program through Baylor College of Medicine and Rice. And as a kid, I was always launching businesses. So that gave me the courage and confidence to launch 2 businesses as a medical student. One was on the side was just the paper side was equities and options, and the other wasn't real estate. So my early 20s, I was generating six figures from my bedroom in my spare
What?
time.
Okay, what?
Really,
Okay, all right. We gotta talk more about that part. Okay,
yeah,
because
exactly.
that right there is amazing. So, okay, so you told me, or you're telling us, right, that you did little businesses as a child, right? So like what kind of businesses were you doing? Like what kind of stuff?
Well, well, for example, like my earliest, like I lived up in the Northeast for a little while, so I was always I would gather my group of friends, and I would be the promoter, sort of the promoter. I would knock on my neighbors' doors and be like, "Oh, hey, do you need snow shoveled from your driveway?" And I
Okay, got it.
would be paying attention to the news. Like if a huge snowstorm was coming, I'd be like, "Oh, this is my opportunity," and I'd
Hmm.
rally my friends and be like, "Hey, if we do 20 driveways, we make this much and we can split it. We can go for pizza and ice cream." So that was one. And then also I lived in the South during the summer, so it was like really hot. So I would volunteer to mow the lawns and do all that. And it's the same business model, just it's just different economic situation circumstances. When I was like, I think I was in eight eight 8 years old or 9 years old for admission, and we could share, and then that's sort of how it went. And then it transitioned into more lucrative things. I bought my first stock when I was in high school, and then I learned how to do that, and I learned how to invest the profits through college, and so I had an early experience through that.
Okay.
So
Now, did you I guess the question is, did you get exposed to like any like how did you know to do this? Was it something that you just naturally came to, or was it that you read a book somewhere, or because you're talking about some high level stuff, right? You're talking about like having a business plan, seeking the opportunity, and then taking advantage of the opportunity, and then also having it organized such that you're like you have your finger on the pulse of like the weather, of like when the opportunities are going to come up. You are
yeah,
like you're putting forward a good marketing plan. Like these are all high level things for a child to be doing. So did you
yeah.
have exposure? Was there a family business? Was there something else?
Well, it's great that you asked that question, because I always got in trouble for doing these sort of things. I was always taught to put my head down in books and study and get good grades, and that would eventually lead to a job and that sort of thing. And all my parents were like, invest in your education, which I think education is very important. I'm always self-educating. Um, my dad wasn't he had his own company and his own business, so I did learn. I didn't have any formal education. I just picked up what I got. But I think really the driver for me was just a natural curiosity. I was Because at the heart of it, it was always freedom. I didn't want to owe my parents. I didn't want to be dependent upon the government. I really disliked the idea of being dependent upon a job or a corporation. And so it was just a natural curiosity, and I was just thinking, well, educate schools teach, math and science and reading, and all of those are important, but there's other higher level skills that it doesn't teach, that you need to succeed in the real world. So part of that was financial education. So I the book that really changed my life was Rich Dad Poor
Oh
Dad.
my goodness, I was waiting for you to say that. That book is a life changer. That is for sure.
yeah. And I just happened, because it was a catchy title, so I picked it up and I read it in a day, because it just opened my eyes. It was all the principles I had been operating by were to be an employee and to
Right.
to have, which I really think that you can succeed as an employee, but if it's not your passion, you need to really, these days there's so many options that you can go and just create your own future and your destiny. So
Absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
yeah, the other book that really changed my life was Multiple Streams of Income,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
yeah, which really talks about, because the one event that really was my aha moment, where it was like I need to be able to create my own future, was when 9/11 happened.
Mm-hmm.
9/11 changed everything, because it showed me that the world is really a global place, and really there's
Yes.
just anything can happen at any moment. So the defining moment was 9/11. Was it just showed me how global the world is, and just if you look at this COVID-19, it's almost like 9/11, but it's on a more of a massive scale because it affects everything. So it just showed me that there's just at any moment anything can happen. So you have to have different hedges in place. You can't depend on a single source of income. You can't depend on the government. You can't depend. You have to have insurance. You have to have real estate. You have to have stocks, options. You have to have a job. You have to be able to create these income streams, because if you look down to it, they say that I'm not saying that money is the most important thing, but it is very vital in today's society. If you don't have finances, you can't have a place to stay, or you can't travel, or you can't eat. So it's very important. But I don't think I think this education system is still deep rooted into this industrial age, where we have to, we're sort of have to follow orders, and we have to conform to a hierarchy. Whereas if you look at the really successful people that are living their dreams, these are the creatives, these are the entrepreneurs, these are the people that went out and created their own destinies. So I'm all for education, and I think the number one education one can give them is self-education and financial education. So I mean, the public school system is great to get academic education, but there's another level of skills that we have to start building upon in order to thrive in today's society. So um,
Absolutely. No, that's so true. So, so you basically, man, there's so many complex things that you have touched on.
yeah, exactly.
And and I'm with you there because, obviously, you and I both have an entrepreneurial mindset, which
Right.
is very different. And you sounds like you experienced this when you were, when you're interfacing with your parents, because,
Right.
their point of view was, hey, Chris, you need to get your head in the books and just work on that.
Yeah.
Whereas you're like, hey, I'm trying to figure out how can I have multiple streams of income
Right.
and have my freedom.
Right.
So the majority of people feel like your parents do, right?
Exactly.
And why do they feel this way? Because we have been basically brainwashed to think that if we follow this path, then we're going to be assured of a lifetime of benefit, right? Like we're going to go to our jobs, we're going to make money, we're going to be able to do the things that we need to do.
Right.
We never are taught to think bigger than that, right? We're never taught to think that that is just a ceiling, that's a limit, that there are limitless possibilities. And if we do think outside the box, then we're going to see some amazing things happen. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunately not a very common mentality and mindset. And
Right.
so I don't know, I can't blame my parents for for the way they felt, because I think my
Yeah.
mom feels the same way too. So
Exactly.
I got you. We're on the same page for sure. And so you got to that point where you got impacted by Rich Dad Poor Dad as you were living parts of that cash flow quadrant already. And then
Uh-huh.
I'm sure that probably just took it to the next level. And then you read multiple streams of income, and then that impacted you even more. And then you had 9/11 happen, and that was like a real life example of how you can practically apply these concepts. And then now we're in a situation where
Mhm.
COVID is definitely bringing these skills and this mindset to the fore again, right? Because now people are having to work from home. Now they're
Right.
having to figure out alternatives for how they're going to make an income,
Right.
and in comes this practice that you've been doing for years.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's just very timely, very amazing, and kudos to you for sure.
Yeah. Uh, the and really, I describe my journey as the classic hero's dilemma that Joseph Campbell describes, and it's where this the hero is on a journey, and he's got two divergent paths. One is, does he continue on the safe path, or does he walk away from success to find fulfillment? And so that was my dilemma. It's like I achieved financial freedom by 29, and it was sort of like my goals, what I wanted to do, and where the traditional path were taking me were so divergent. So and really the thing is, I matched into orthopedics, but the thing was, it was more of a stat. It was more, I was doing it just for the wrong reasons. And I describe it as I'm orientation, and I look around, and all of a sudden I just get this sinking feeling that I just knew right then, even before I had even seen a patient or on a rotation, I just knew I had made the wrong decision. So, but I toughed it out for 2 more years, and I just woke up one morning and I couldn't look myself in the eye because I was just living a false reality. I was living a lie. So, and it's quite interesting because 9/15/2008, that's Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy, and I was like, my higher intuition just told me, this is your chance. When the world is running scared, this is your chance to go out and invest like full-time real estate equities. And if you don't do it, you're gonna regret it. That's what my higher self told me. So mustered up the courage. I walked into my chairman's office and I just resigned on the spot, and just in this huge time of economic uncertainty, and his jaw just dropped. He's
Of
just like,
course, of
yeah,
course.
it's just like,
He's
he's
like,
like,
"What's the matter with you, man? You're gonna
yeah,
walk away from like
yeah,
medicine is supposed to be like the stable, industry.
exactly,
Like, there's always gonna be a need for your service, for your skill, and you're just like
right,
walking away from this.
yeah,
Wow.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And all my colleagues, they were calling me. They're like, are you crazy? What are you thinking? They just couldn't see it from my standpoint. It was like I was following my dreams. It was so much potential. There was more risk, sure, but there was just so much potential out there I could create on my own. And they couldn't see it. My parents couldn't see it. My spouse couldn't. Nobody could see it. So for 8 years, I hunkered down. I doubled down when everybody was running scared. I was investing in myself. I was taking courses. I was investing in real estate, and I was doubling down in equities and options. And that was right when the bull market was happening. So in 8 years, um, I was just doubling down when everybody was scared. I was going for it, and just like right now, everybody's running scared.
Oh yeah.
We're
Now is the
talking.
perfect time to get involved in investment. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm telling everybody, and they're like, no, no, everybody's like, it's just we humans are just so pre-programmed with fear. And really the thing to do is you have to always do the counterintuitive thing. Like Warren Buffett says, when others are fearful, you have to be greedy. When other people are greedy, you have to be fearful. So, and if you look at some of the great Joseph Kennedy, he had he before the depression, he was he was a millionaire. But after the Great Depression, he was in the hundreds of millions in terms of just net worth. So that just goes to show you, if you have the right mindset, you can achieve a lot. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
um,
it's funny you mentioned that because I literally was talking to a couple of the residents the other day. I was like, yes, I took a look at my 401k and I was just kind of like, man, this is crazy. I'm taking a hit. But then I remembered that, yeah,
uh,
I took a hit the last time, which was 9/11.
yeah,
I took a
exactly.
hit then and I was still like putting money in there. I still was putting money in there because you know, it's very hard for us, like you said, like as humans, it's really hard for us to like look at that number, look at the decrease and be okay with it. We're just like, oh my gosh, we're not gonna have enough money left for retirement. Oh my gosh, we're not gonna have enough investments.
Yeah,
And instead of thinking about it like, okay, this is a time when you don't stop, you keep riding the storm out because
uh,
even if it goes down to the very bottom, guess what? It's gonna have to start going back up again. Like that's just the cycle of things. And
right.
so it was kind of funny because I was chuckling and talking to this guy, and he was saying, yeah, because he was a little bit more savvy than the typical person that I talked to, and he was like, yeah, I know. It's like it's a bear, and we gotta like definitely hang in there. And I was like, that's right, I love it. I got real excited whenever the residents are expressing interest in financial things or they actually have a little bit of savvy. I always get excited because I know that when
Yeah,
I was at that stage, I had no clue. I didn't read Rich
yeah,
Dad Poor Dad until after I actually got done with residency and was
uh,
an attending. So
yeah.
yeah, no, that's cool.
Um, yeah, but it was great. It was like, by age 38, I had realized my dreams 20 years ahead of time. So, and then basically, I took a year off just to really contemplate what my next phase was. So launched my consulting company, and right now working with the hospitals as a digital health consultant. I coach physician clients, and I'm an advisor on a healthcare tech startup. So, and once I became successful at that, I decided to really step up and share my journey, because I was always uh, afraid, because I was always hiding behind this failure that I hadn't, I walked away from orthopedics, and so I was always hiding behind that failure. But I really decided to step up and just share my journey and experiences. So last year wrote 4 books around the 4 income streams, and now I'm leveraging technology as a creative entrepreneur and launching online courses and seminars and podcasts and things like that. So
Awesome. 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 Good stuff. What do you think in all of this? Now you touched a little bit on, the fear that you felt when you started your orthopedic residency, right? And you also touched a little bit on the fear that you felt when you had to basically go into your chairman's office and let he or she know that you are about to walk away and do something completely different.
yeah.
Can you tell us about the fear, maybe that fear that you felt now, or maybe even very recently? You've had successes, right? You did this thing, you did a bold move, you had successes, but like, was there any fear even with starting your consulting company or any of those kind of ventures? Did you feel fear there?
Yeah. There's always I suffer. I mean, I have a lot of fear too. Everybody has fear. One of the real fears with starting, just going out on your own, is the just being able to live with just the unpredictability. So, like, it's in, whereas a traditional job, you have a 9 to 5, you have, biweekly, monthly pay, it's always consistent. As an entrepreneur, you sometimes some months, like for like November, December are really slow, January, February is slow. And then you have things like the COVID-19 disrupt your business, like, so you have to, I've learned. I used to get really freaked out about it. I used to really take it personally, and I used to like go through these slumps. But now I think it's really, because if I look back on the last 20 years of my journey, everything works out. Everything, I haven't been homeless. I never missed a meal. I've been physically safe. It's just all in our head. So, in like, really now it's just, how do I manage it? What do I do? So a lot of times I just a lot of self-awareness, mindfulness. I do a lot of meditation now. Just meditation really helps. It helps you to just reset, ground, just everything. It's really helpful. So really a fear of, instead of a fear of failure now, right now it's a fear of not being good enough, or am I able to reach the next level? Because um, right now what I'm doing is more a little bit higher level things, where you're managing people and leading, and you're taking things to where you're scaling it to a broader audience instead of just a single client. So a fear of just rejection, and a fear of not being good enough, or am I able to reach the next level? So that's one fear that I have as well. So I mean, we all suffer from
Oh,
fears. Just
yes. That imposter syndrome creeps in every single time,
oh,
no
yeah,
matter how high
oh,
achieving you are.
yeah, yeah. A lot of times I have to pinch myself. I'm like, is this me? I'm just this, just this average Joe, and now people are like contacting me, and asking about my products and services, and asking to give TEDx talks and things. So it's just, yeah, sometimes I have to pinch myself and see if it's really real.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome, 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 awesome. So we have had an amazing conversation, and I know that the audience is encouraged, inspired, because now people can see that, that even if you get to that point where you're in that spot, in that zone, but you feel like it's just not right, like it's not what your calling is, that you shouldn't be afraid to potentially course correct and do so dramatically. Obviously you had like somewhat of a backup, right? You had already had the businesses that you had established in medical school, right? So you weren't completely going to be penniless, if you walked away, right? So that there's a caveat, right? So you definitely want to make sure that if you're going to make a dramatic move, that you have a plan. So because that's going to really help to alleviate the fear that you're going to have doing something like that. Because, you know, we always say that whenever you face your fears and you do so boldly, great things happen, because the growth always seems to happen at its fastest, at its most intense, when you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. And oftentimes when we're facing our fears and we're doing those things, that's us stepping outside of our comfort zone and getting into that growth zone. So, you know, thank you so much for sharing that, because I feel like it inspired me. And I know that it's going to inspire, you know, those that are listening. So, you know, definitely appreciate that. So at the end of our show, we have a couple things that we typically do. Okay, these are the fill in the blanks. But first, I would like for you to let the audience know how they can get in contact with you. And we'll also have this in the show notes, but just a quick points as to how they can get in contact with you if they want to continue the conversation.
Well, I'm very active on Instagram. So my handle is at Dr. Chris Liu, MD Ph.D. Also on Facebook, you can find me Christopher Liu. LinkedIn as well, Christopher H. Liu, MD Ph.D. So you can, any of those. All my books, 4 books are on Amazon. Just type in my name. They'll pull up there. My email is christopherliu.mdphd@gmail.com. So, and then plus everything will be in the show notes. And then, you know, any services, products, courses that they're interested in, I have literally the pipeline's running right now. So I'm happy to share resources.
Absolutely.
But definitely, reach out, and also my YouTube channel as well. So.
And just for clarification, it's Liu as L-O-O, because just in case people decide to look it up and they look for L-I-U or something like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
Cool. Great conversation. And so at the end here, what we do is we do the fill in the blanks. Are you ready? Ready for the fill in the blanks? Okay. Yes. All right. So the first one is, to me, fearless freedom means.
Fearless freedom means being able to live, work, go, travel with anywhere, anytime, anyone you want. That's what fearless freedom, and not be dependent upon an external source. You can self-generate that freedom yourself.
Awesome. And the next one is, if I am fearless, I will.
If I'm fearless, then I will reach my potential, full potential.
Sweet. And then last but not least, my battle cry is.
My battle cry is just do it.
Love it. That is awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate you and your time, because I know you are a busy man. So I appreciate that. And yeah, anytime you want to come back, if you have something new going on, definitely hit us up and come back and chat with us.
All right. Well, thanks, Dr. Gregory. It was great talking with you, and I really enjoyed our time together.